Hey, Hickok 45, look what I finally got my hands on. Ooh, a P08 made by Mauser. You probably know it as a Luger because it's commonly referred to as a Luger. The P08, this one was made in 1939, but I think it still fires. Let's try it. Take the safety off and see if it will burst a flower pot. I believe it did. Sorry, Mr. Soft Drink, you don't get away that easily. See what I mean? Let's take out 1 2-liter with it before it gets overheated. Oh man, dramatic. Hey, he thought he was still in battle, maybe. Okay, nice. Cowboy time. Oh, what is that thing sticking up from the gun? It broke. The gun's broke and it's not even mine. Oh, I hate that. Hate it when that happens. All right, what a comedian. Yes, we have a P08, again, commonly referred to as the Luger by many, many people. It could be because a guy by the name of Mr. Luger came up with this design, huh? Well, let's lay it down here, take a look at it. Take that magazine out, holds 8 rounds, and you know, it's 9mm. Now I'll let you guess what round it fires. It is a Luger, as we know, and you know, on the box you see the word Luger, and on the base of that cartridge I think you see Luger. So that was pretty easy to match them up, wasn't it? You could say the gun was almost created for that round. Actually, it wasn't created for that round. It started out with a different round in the first couple of years. Well, I don't know. They made it, I think. Actually, what was the caliber? It was 7.65 by 22, I believe, if I'm correct. And that, when you know, Luger came up with it, that was the caliber and the cartridge. And then in a couple of years, 1902, then he chambered it, came up with the 9mm cartridge. It was basically a modification of that 7.65 by 22, as I understand. It was kind of like, I guess, the 5.56 and the 300 blackout. He didn't have to change the bolt face or any of that. It had the same head that the 9 does, and it was just opened up a little bit in a bigger cartridge, I think, is mainly the difference. I've read that the same barrel, but you just had to change out the barrel basically, so if you had one of these. But anyway, it's known as a 9mm because that's how it is chambered in most cases, and you know, since 1902, the 9mm. That's almost 100 years ago. Wow. I think a lot of people probably think of the 9mm maybe as being a newer cartridge. That thing has a lot of history, doesn't it? So pretty cool gun. This gun uses the toggle lock, you know, recoil operated system. Notice that thing, you pull that up. That's what makes this so unique, so interesting. Plus it's a very precision firearm. You feel like it was really machined with precision. Very interesting, no doubt about it. You can see the 1939 there on the receiver there, barrel actually, but it was made you know, by Mauser. The S42 indicates it was made by Mauser as well, because a Mauser, I think, made almost all of these from 1930 on up into the 40s. They bought out the outfit in Berlin. What was it? DWM, I think it was called, if I'm correct. It was Douche, DW, yeah, Waffen machinery or something like that. But DWM is what people refer to it as. And they made them initially in Berlin. And then Mauser took over in about 1930 and then on through the 40s. And this was one of those guns made in 1939. Now, this particular firearm has a history. I'm not going to shoot it a great deal. It's not mine. It's fairly valuable, and it's even more valuable because it has sentimental value for the owner. I'm very, very flattered and pleased that the soldier offered this firearm to us. This was brought back by his great uncle, who was in the 101st Airborne and dropped at Normandy. And he brought this back as a bring back. So pretty significant firearm in his family, you know. So He said it's not rated, of course, for plus P, and he has fired it some with just weak 9mm. It does fine. Has the old springs, original, I think, and so just fire weak 115 grain ammo, and it should be fine. So that's what I'm doing. Winchester white box is known to be nothing like NATO rounds or anything in terms of power. So pretty neat gun. I have always noticed these and looked at them. I've never known a lot about them, to tell you the truth. But they're kind of expensive. You can't pick one of these up that's just because the bluing is off. You can't find one for $400. You know, they start out in the thousands. So it's that kind of deal. Very, very interesting though. This toggle link system, make sure we're clear still. Okay, nobody sneaked in here and loaded it while I was looking at John, the camera. But you notice how it works. It has this toggle lock, as it's called, and it's recoil operated. When you fire the cartridge by pulling the trigger, of all things, the barrel, it's definitely clear, so I'm gonna do some things I don't normally do with it. You'll see today. I'm gonna put my hand out here maybe. I'm gonna push on that. You can see it moves back. The barrel moves backward, and it pushes that toggle up that little ramp there, that cam. That unlocks the toggle link, because that toggle link, that joint there, is really stiff until, you know, that's broken there. And once that breaks, then it goes on back, and that's what operates it. You don't have a slide that comes all the way back as with most conventional semi-automatic pistols. So that picks up the round, puts it in. The barrel moves a little bit, and that does the work. It's pretty cool, pretty cool. And we probably should take it apart before it gets too dirty, but I think I'll shoot one more magazine first, okay? All right, so this is, speaking of that toggle link, that goes back to the Maxim machine gun. Used a system a little bit like that. And then the Borchard pistol, which is the C93, came out, that's because of 1893. It had a similar operation. I've never fired one, I've seen them. And it fired a different cartridge as well. I don't think many more than just a few thousand of them were made. It was very, very complex, even more than this gun. But this is what Luger based it off of, the Borchard firearm and the toggle link system. So it's kind of unique. And of course the P08 made it famous. And the reason it's called a P08 is that's when the German army adopted it. Okay. So there were some other folks that adopted it before that, like the Swiss. They adopted this thing in around 1900, 1901, and they liked it right away, even in the other cartridge, the original cartridge, not in 9mm. They may have switched to 9 later, I don't know, but that's when the German army adopted it, 1908. All right, you pull up on this the toggle link, see, put it around then. Notice you have a chamber, loaded chamber indicator. Has a German word written on it. I can't see it really well, but it means loaded. Pretty interesting. Just like that word means safe. Okay? Now I'll let 10 Outdoors 9 pronounce those for me. Okay, if he's watching. So let's put it off safe and fire a couple of shots. Like I said, I'm not going to shoot it too much, but it is a firearm. Let's see, I think the sights are pretty much on. They better be, right? Wow, I think they know they're getting hit by a Luger. They're trying to put on a show. There we go. I got a little bump fire action there. Didn't have a good grip on it, I guess. All right. Let's try the gong. All right. All right. Mr. Luger knew one day this firearm would have to prove itself on the 80-yard gong, didn't he? Pretty cool, pretty cool. So like I say, this thing started basically in the 1890s with the Borchard, I believe, Borchard pistol, the C93, which was more elaborate than this, but used that kind of toggle locking system. And then Luger, and in fact, the guy who came with Borchard, I guess, they worked together, I think, and Borchard didn't want to change his pistol. He didn't want to modify it, but so Luger took it and he worked on it and made it better, made it simpler, shortened the cartridge a little bit, and and was able to shorten the toggle length and all that, so it made it a more, I think, a compact pistol and make it work. Now, by our standards today, it still seems fairly complex, you know, when you get right down to it. I mean, compare any of our Wonder 9s, our new pistols, our polymer pistols with this thing. You'll see as I take it apart, you think, wow, okay, not exactly the epitome of simplicity maybe, but very interesting. You got to remember, this is 1898 he got the patent on this. That's 1898. That's almost 100 years before some of our Wonder pistols are out now. And then again, around 1900, they went into production with it. And like I say, the Swiss adopted the thing in 1900, 1901. Then the German Navy, I think, in 1904, and then the German Army in 1908, which hence the name. Okay. Now I'm going to move over here, and I'm going to try to take it apart for you. I've got a piece of cardboard, and because I'm going to push down on the barrel. I've had a little trouble. I have seen others break these down and not have any difficulty. I usually can master that kind of thing. I'm not a total klutz, and I've got me a tool here if I need it. But getting out the takedown lever, the slide lock, getting it out on this one, for me is difficult. Now, the owner, I thought I saw him take this thing apart much more easily than it's been for me. So I've done it a few times. The other thing is I don't want to risk damaging it at all. I don't want to put the screwdrivers are not for breaking it down. You'll see why I brought the screwdrivers out. But this is your takedown lever, okay? And in order to free that up to take it down, I think it has to be on fire. I'm going to check it again, make doubly sure, nothing in there. She's very clear. There's no magazine. All right, because what I'm going to do would be considered unsafe if it weren't checked very clearly. All right, so we're on fire. Now, in a perfect world, and I have seen people do it, I think that's what the owner did, but I just can't seem to get it done right. And I don't want to damage the gun. So I'm going to put the pressure by putting it against the cardboard here. And you want to get the pressure off of it, okay? And then pull down the lever. And that's what I was having trouble just doing with my thumb. I just couldn't get it done. So I took a toothbrush. I made myself a little lever here to help me with that a little bit. And then we'll use a screwdriver. It looked like maybe somebody had done that down in the past somewhere. There we go. But normally you just pull that down, okay, like that. And that's the part that I have some difficulty with, and even getting it in and out to some extent. That frees up this side plate, which is kind of cool. The trigger connects with that. It's kind of a complex design, but it works. Okay, comes right off. This comes right out, and that's all. We're going to take that apart. This is basically a field strip. Okay. Now, interesting little design here. Pull out this pin, this center pin, axle pin. I've heard it called several things. This comes out one way. And that slides off, slides right out, and there you go. Pretty easy to clean because you can get to it from the rear. That's always nice. And I've seen it. You get kind of a tuning fork effect with these things. It's really a precision instrument. It really is. Just very, very, very interesting. If you're like me and you like firearms, my guess is you do, unless you're some anti-gunner that just dropped in. It's just fascinating to see these old guns and how they were designed. I'll lay that right there. And now we got the toggle lock here. And okay, now this is kind of a striker fired gun. And the reason I have the screwdrivers out here, not to start prying on his gun, but you put this in here in the little plunger, do a quarter of a turn, and it comes out. You got the plunger and the spring and the firing pin. How's that? Striker in a way. That's pretty neat. That's it. So that's fairly simple to clean. You can get to that without too much trouble. I mean, it feels good and sturdy, and it has to be. Definitely has to be, because this thing gets all the pressure. This is what's being knocked back and then recycling very, very quickly. Pretty cool. I read too that because in World War I that trench warfare, a full auto pistol they decided would be really desirable, and they experimented with those, and they even experimented with the Luger, the P08, in making it full auto and see how it worked. but it cycled so fast that it wasn't, just wasn't desirable. Just, I don't know, it just works well. Okay, so we got that back in correctly. So very, very simple to clean up. You know, I like the way this thing, for the most part, comes apart and everything. I'm not sure why I struggle with that other part. Now, also, you thought that Luger pioneered the big old loaded chamber indicator that sticks out. As I showed you, there's one right there. See, that's the extractor and the loaded chamber indicator. You know, when you have a round in the chamber, it shows. So that's pretty neat. And you know, Luger, when they started making their little 22s, they essentially copied, to some extent, the design of the P08. You know, the Luger. I have it upside down to it. Yes, I do. Okay. Okay. Wait, let me get my having a hard time seeing. There we go. Get it in. There we go. All right. Pretty neat. Pretty neat. I put the pin back in. Very simple to get that part apart and do a thorough cleaning, of course. You notice you have a fairly robust pin there, which is important. Gets a lot of the pressure. I've had this apart several times. It's not a problem. Shouldn't be. There we go. Okay. Definitely don't want to lose anything from this this firearm. Again, I'm so pleased that we were offered one of these, because they are expensive, and of course they're meant to be shot. You know. Now this, you want this thing needs to go down just in the right spot there. Yeah, a little spring. Okay, you bring it on back. All right, slides right back on. Now, if I remember the procedure, now here I have the same issue now. So you can't get this in there properly because at the bottom, that lug on the bottom of the barrel's in the way. So just like when you're taking it out. So I'm going to put some pressure on that again. I'm going to get that in. And it has to go all the way across. There we go. I have some difficulty even getting it popped in all the way. Now I think I don't need the pressure to finish this off. Maybe that fits right in there, maybe. Oops. Yeah, we're okay. Fumble around with it here. There we go. Okay. I believe we're still all right. No, we're not. I did that once before when I was taking it apart. The spring popped out of the place where it needs to be. So let me take the pressure back off and pull this out again. Downward. Which is extremely stiff. There we go. Okay, pull that off. What happened was, and it happened to me earlier, yeah, this has to be dropped down. You can't let it move when you're reassembling it, apparently. Yeah, let's go right down in there. Okay, now don't you let me let that get away again, okay? Like I just did. All right. This back in. If you had one of these, if I owned one, you know, I would have had it apart a few hundred times by now, and I wouldn't be quite the klutz, probably, because even I figure things out eventually and figure out the ideal way to, you know, to take something apart, get it back together. Okay, pressure off that. Okay, the locking bolt back up there, the slide lock, and now we're in business again, okay? All right, so get back around here. Okay, so this is my little workbench. I have seen, and I'm pretty sure the owner just pulled that down. Don't know how he did it. He must be a lot stronger than I am or something. It's not a matter of strength even. I can't get enough bite on it. But that's how they come down. And hopefully if you own one, it's easier to take apart, right? So we're going to take a couple of shots now. And then, oh, we need to load a mag now. We're not going to shoot a great deal. I'll shoot a couple of mags here. You notice at long range even, it seems to be right on. I took a couple of shots with it before the video, and you know, hit a couple of plates over there hanging and things, and the sights seem right on with 115 grain ammo. don't see any major problems with that. Again, it's not a firearm you could shoot a lot, but it is, it seems to be right on. We're not going to shoot the P08. The P08 is a firearm that essentially replaced the P08, you know, the Luger. Pretty much replaced it, and we'll tell you more about that one later. But in 1938, they started making those and kind of phased those in because they were simpler and not quite as complicated and as expensive to make. This is really neat, firing one of these old things. You know, I mean, again, if you're a gun person, you're a shooter, firearms enthusiast, you get it, don't you? To have something that was made in 1939, that was brought back, you know, by you know, a fellow in the 101st Airborne, you know, dropped into France at Normandy, you know, and to bring this thing back. And we don't ever know all the history of any of these military firearms, but they're just interesting pieces of iron and wood, aren't they? So let's take a couple shots. It's really a special privilege to be able to shoot. I'm going to put a couple on that target. I haven't shot any paper with it yet, or I'm going to try to hold close to the middle. It's in there somewhere close, maybe. Let's go on over there. I'm going to throw one at that turkey on the top row, and just because I feel like the sights are almost on. Yeah, hit him, didn't knock him down. Hit him again, I think. Click. That flinch there, that magazine, maybe either one of them. I noticed didn't hold the slide back. I've got one in my pocket here. A few more shots. Pretty cool. Pull up the toggle, let her fly. Okay, need to take a fine bead, like on this 2-liter click. I'm out already. Okay, cool. Did you know that in around 1907, 1906, 1907, when the U.S. military was evaluating pistols and looking at them, Luger, Luger, I guess you could say, he had a couple of these made or more in 45 ACP and submitted them to the trials. And so as part of the group of firearms that were being evaluated, there were some of these in 45 ACPs. Isn't that amazing? And I don't know how close they came to getting the adoption, but that's pretty amazing that there's no slide lock, by the way. If you don't have the magazine in there, it's just going to, you know. But this could have been our military pistol. How's that for some strange thinking? Could have been. So now, you know, in the 40s, they essentially halted the manufacture of these things. Other than there were some different, you know, there's a world of history on these things. If you're really interested in them, you can find there are different companies, a couple, 3 that made replicas of them in later years. But it's pretty expensive to make, as you can imagine, and even the replicas were expensive. I remember one of those coming out, it seemed like in the 90s. It was stainless. I remember seeing it in the gun magazines. And interesting, but really expensive, I thought, at the time, for sure. But these old guns, they're just amazing. And like I say, this is a Mauser. Mauser made them from I think 1930 on up into the 40s. And you can trace them. They're books, book after book after book, you know, written on them. You got some of the later models with the Bakelite grips. This one has the wooden grips, which is, I think they're the original grips. And there's a little bit of a break, a little split in them there. But, and they're kind of loose. They don't fit really tightly. But the owner is not going to, I don't know, he probably won't want to do anything with this firearm. You know, you really ruin the value, start refinishing and doing things like that. And plus, the biggest value of this firearm is just the history of it for him, I'm sure. And that's really cool. So, all right, let's take a couple more shots. It's doing just great. I don't want to shoot it too much. This is probably it, but it seems to be doing just fine. When that toggle lock jumps up in front of your face, it's there's no question it's hitting. I held the slide back that time, or the lock back. It's pretty neat. Let's hit the gong one more time before we give up over there. Ah, the sweet sound of the gong. Nice, nice, nice. Let's go find an IPSC match, the USPSA, and compete with this thing. Okay, man, what have I not told you about it that I do know? Again, do I have to even tell you? I'm not an expert on these things. You notice the little numbers on a lot of the pieces, the little 2-digit number. That's, as you notice, the serial number is a 4-digit number right there, 5664. So you see a 64 on a lot of the parts, which means, of course, they are original. And most of the parts are on this firearm. There are a couple of 3 that are not, but you know, for the most part, it's correct and has all the original little parts with it. 9mm. An old cartridge, been around a long time. The reason this firearm is so famous for being a 9mm, it was the first 9mm. You know, that cartridge was developed for this gun, you know, in 1902. This gun was, patented in what, 1898. You know, it was a different cartridge. Again, the 7.65, a 22, I think. So the firearm wasn't created around the 9mm, you know, Parabellum, the Luger cartridge. But very soon afterwards, you know, it was. And that's the case lots of times. It really is, isn't it? We see that all the time in history. History of firearms. So, yeah, if you want a 9mm, it doesn't get any older. You want the oldest 9mm around. This is pretty much it. Not the cheapest, but it is the oldest. And and again, you know, I'm throwing around the dates, so you all know, even if you're history challenged, like I might have been at your age if you're 15 or 12, but World War I, this thing was used, World War II, so, and you know, all times in between, and it's got a special glow about it. People just like them. When the soldiers came back, the GIs from World War I, the U.S. soldiers, you know, some of them brought them back. They found them fascinating. There's always been that panache about these things, and people have sought them, you know, for so long. You know, partly because of what they're associated with, you know, and they're very specific, and they just like them. You know, apparently quite a few soldiers managed to get them back in World War II as well. So a bring back like this without any import marks, you know, is especially cool. But it's just a firearm. The ergonomics, a lot of people really like. That's why Ruger copied it, you know, with his 22s. And the mechanism, it's a precision machine. You know, somebody mentioned that it was almost like a Swiss watch. You know, just very well made, reliable and strong. You know, most people agree. It's just fairly complex, I think, to make and expensive. And so, as you can see, just from what I've done with it, you know, it's night and day compared with a SIG, right, or an M&P or a Glock or an XD in terms of taking it apart and cleaning it. It's just night and day in a lot of ways. And just because I struggle, though, I'd probably give a wrong impression there, because a lot of people don't struggle. I'm not sure why that's so tight for me, other than just limited mental powers, right, and ability. So I'm really pleased to be able to fire this thing, and again, appreciate the loan of it. It's pretty cool. It's more complex and a little more involved, and of course much more expensive to make, say, than the P08, but which more or less replaced it. But it is a really cool pistol, and life is good.